The whiskey glass shattered against the saloon wall just inches from Olivia Crawford's head, and the laughter that followed cut deeper than any shard of glass ever could. Maybe if you lost some weight, Olivia, men would actually want to dance with you instead of betting on how many chairs you'd break, shouted Marcus Flint, the banker's son, his words slurred but deliberate enough to sting. It was May of 1876 in Jackson, Wyoming territory, and Olivia had made the mistake of accepting what she thought was a genuine invitation to the Saturday night social at the Silver Dollar Saloon. She should have known better. At 22 years old and considerably fuller-figured than the other unmarried women in town, she had endured years of cruel remarks and sideways glances. But something about tonight felt different, crueler, more coordinated. "I heard old man Henderson's prize hog is smaller than her," another voice called out, and the crowd erupted again. Olivia felt her face burning as she pushed through the crowd toward the door. Her cornflower blue eyes brimmed with tears she refused to let fall in front of these people. She had worn her best dress, a green cotton gown her mother had helped her alter, letting out the seams as much as possible. She had braided her honey-colored hair with care. She had allowed herself to hope, just for one evening, that maybe things would be different. The cool night air hit her face as she stumbled onto the wooden boardwalk, gasping for breath that seemed to catch in her throat. Behind her, the piano music resumed and the laughter continued, already forgetting her humiliation in favor of the next drink, the next dance, the next bit of entertainment. "Are you all right, miss?" The voice was deep and unfamiliar. Olivia wiped at her eyes quickly, turning to see a tall figure emerging from the shadows beside the saloon. He was a man she did not recognize, which was unusual in a town as small as Jackson. He stood well over 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders that spoke of hard physical labor. Even in the dim light spilling from the saloon windows, she could see he had dark hair that touched his collar and a neatly trimmed beard. "I am fine," she managed, her voice shakier than she wanted. "Thank you for your concern." "Did not sound fine in there," he said, taking a step closer. His voice carried no pity, just a simple statement of fact. Sounded like a bunch of fools with more whiskey than sense. Despite herself, Olivia let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. That would be an accurate assessment of most Saturday nights in Jackson. The man moved into the light, and she got her first clear look at him. He was perhaps 28 or 30, with strong features and gray eyes that seemed to take in everything without judgment. He wore working clothes, dusty from travel, and his hands bore the calluses of ranch work. "Name is Harrison Lancaster," he said, touching the brim of his hat. "Just arrived in town today. Bought the old Riverside Ranch about 3 miles north of here." "Olivia Crawford," she replied automatically, then tensed, waiting for recognition to dawn, for him to realize she was the object of the mockery he had surely heard even outside the saloon. "Pleased to meet you, Miss Crawford." He glanced back at the saloon door, his jaw tightening. "Those folks in there, they are always like that. Only when they have had enough to drink, or when they are bored, or when someone like me gives them a reason to entertain themselves." The bitterness in her voice surprised even her. Harrison was quiet for a moment, studying her face. "Someone like you? Oh, come now, Mr. Lancaster. Surely you are not blind. I am not exactly the typical delicate flower that men in these parts seem to prefer." "I heard what they said," Harrison acknowledged, his voice hardening. "About your size. They are wrong if that matters to you." Olivia let out a harsh laugh. "Wrong, Mr. Lancaster, I appreciate the attempt at kindness, but I own a mirror. I know what I look like. I know I am larger than other women. I know that makes me undesirable. I have accepted it." "Have you?" He moved closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head up to meet his eyes. Because acceptance usually does not come with tears. She wanted to argue, to tell him to mind his own business, to retreat into the protective shell she had built around herself over years of rejection and mockery. But something in his steady gaze, in the complete absence of pity or disgust, made her defenses crumble just slightly. "What do you want me to say?" she whispered. "That it hurts. That every time I hope things might be different, I end up more disappointed. That I have watched every girl I grew up with get married and start families while I remain alone, good enough to help with their children but never good enough to have my own." Harrison removed his hat, running a hand through his hair. "I want you to say whatever you need to say. I just do not think you should say it here where they might come stumbling out again." He had a point. Olivia glanced up and down the dark street, suddenly aware of how vulnerable she was standing here, her emotions raw and exposed. "I should get home. Where do you live?" "The boarding house on 3rd Street, Mrs. Patterson's place." "That is on my way. I am staying at the hotel, just started moving my things to the ranch today. Let me walk with you." Olivia opened her mouth to refuse, to insist she did not need his help or his pity. But the truth was, she was shaken and upset, and the thought of walking through the dark streets alone suddenly seemed unbearable. "All right, thank you." They walked in silence for a few moments, their footsteps echoing on the wooden boardwalks. Jackson was a growing town, benefiting from its location in the valley, and the increasing traffic of settlers and traders moving through the Wyoming territory. Gas lamps had been installed on the main streets just the previous year, casting pools of yellow light every dozen yards or so. "How long have you lived in Jackson?" Harrison asked. "All my life. My parents have a small farm about a mile south of town. They grow vegetables and raise chickens, sell at the market on Wednesdays and Saturdays." "And you help them?" "I work at the general store most days. The Hendersons need the help, and my parents need the extra income. I live at the boarding house because it is closer to the store, and Mrs. Patterson charges reasonable rates." Harrison nodded, taking this in. "The Riverside Ranch. What can you tell me about it?" Olivia was grateful for the change of subject, for a chance to think about something other than her humiliation. "It has been empty for about 2 years now, since old Mr. Riverside died. He had no children, no family to speak of. The place fell into some disrepair, from what I understand. Used to be a cattle ranch, good water access from the creek that runs through the property." "That matches what the land agent told me. I am planning to raise cattle, maybe some horses. It will take considerable work to get it running properly again." "You are going to work it yourself?" "Initially, yes. I have enough savings to hire a few ranch hands eventually, but I need to see exactly what condition everything is in first. I am not afraid of hard work." They had reached the boarding house, a modest 2-story building with a neat front porch. A lamp burned in the front window, where Mrs. Patterson always left a light for her residents. Olivia turned to face Harrison, suddenly unsure what to say. The evening had been such a catastrophe, yet this small kindness from a stranger had somehow made it bearable. "Thank you for walking me home, Mr. Lancaster, and thank you for what you said, back there." "I only spoke the truth, Miss Crawford." He put his hat back on, touching the brim in farewell. "If you do not mind my asking, do you work at the general store every day?" "Monday through Saturday, usually morning until early evening." "Then I will likely see you soon. I have a long list of supplies I need for the ranch." He paused, as if considering whether to say more. "For what it is worth, those people in that saloon tonight, they do not deserve your tears. Any man who would mock a woman for something as meaningless as her size is not worth your concern." Before Olivia could respond, he tipped his hat once more and turned, walking back toward the center of town with long, confident strides. She stood on the porch for a long moment, watching him disappear into the darkness, her mind churning with confusion and something she was afraid to name as hope. Inside the boarding house, she climbed the stairs to her small room, stripped off her dress, and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Sleep was a long time coming, and when it finally arrived, it brought dreams of gray eyes and a voice that had spoken to her with respect, not pity. The morning sun streaming through her window came too early, but Olivia forced herself up and through her usual routine. Sunday meant no work at the store, but she always attended morning services at the small church on Main Street. Her mother would be expecting to see her there. The church was already half full when Olivia arrived, sliding into a pew near the back. She had learned long ago that sitting in the back meant fewer stares, fewer whispered comments. Her parents sat in their usual spot near the middle, and she caught her mother's eye, receiving a small smile and a wave. The service proceeded as it always did, Reverend Thomas delivering a sermon about forgiveness and grace that Olivia struggled to connect with. How was she supposed to forgive people who showed no remorse for their cruelty? How was she supposed to extend grace to those who extended none to her? She was so lost in her thoughts that she almost missed the moment when Harrison Lancaster walked through the church doors. He had cleaned up since last night, wearing what were clearly his Sunday clothes, his hair neatly combed, his beard trimmed. Several heads turned to examine the newcomer, the whispers already starting. Harrison's eyes scanned the congregation, and when they landed on Olivia, something in his expression softened. To her absolute shock, he walked directly to her pew and sat down beside her. "Morning, Miss Crawford," he said quietly. "Good morning, Mr. Lancaster," she managed, acutely aware that every eye in the church was now fixed on them. "Hope you do not mind me sitting here. I do not know anyone else in town. Of course not." But her heart was pounding. The whispers had intensified, and she could feel the weight of speculation and judgment pressing down on her shoulders. After the service ended, Harrison stood and offered his arm. "May I walk you to wherever you are headed?" Olivia hesitated, knowing that accepting would only fuel more gossip. But the alternative was to refuse him publicly, and she found she could not do that after his kindness the previous night. "I usually have Sunday dinner with my parents. Would you like to join us? I am sure my mother would not mind setting another place. I would be honored." They walked together to where her parents stood talking with another couple. Catherine Crawford saw them approaching, and her eyes widened slightly at the sight of her daughter with a strange man. "Mama, Papa, this is Mr. Harrison Lancaster. He just bought the Riverside Ranch." "Mr. Lancaster, these are my parents, Catherine and Daniel Crawford." Daniel Crawford, a weathered man of 50 with kind eyes, extended his hand. "Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Lancaster. That is quite a property you have acquired. Please call me Harrison. And yes, it will take considerable work, but I am up for the challenge." "Harrison was kind enough to walk me home last night," Olivia said, seeing her mother's questioning look. "I invited him to join us for dinner, if that is all right." Catherine's face brightened immediately. "Of course. We would be delighted to have you, Mr. Lancaster. We do not live far, just a short wagon ride." The Crawford farm was indeed modest, but it was clear that it was maintained with care and pride. The small house had been freshly painted, the vegetable garden was thriving, and chickens pecked contentedly in their enclosed yard. Inside, the house smelled of roasting chicken and fresh bread. Over dinner, Harrison proved to be an engaging conversationalist. He told them about his background, how he had worked as a ranch hand in Colorado for nearly 10 years, saving every penny he could until he had enough to buy his own place. "Why Jackson?" Daniel asked, passing the bowl of mashed potatoes. I had traveled through here a few years back and remembered the valley, the good grass, the water sources. When I heard the Riverside Ranch was for sale, I knew it was the right opportunity. I am tired of working someone else's land. I want to build something that is mine. That is a dream worth pursuing, Catherine said warmly. Do you have family back in Colorado? Something flickered across Harrison's face, a shadow of old pain. No, madam. My parents died of fever when I was 16. I had a younger sister, but she passed 2 years ago in childbirth along with the baby. Oh, I am so sorry, Catherine said, her voice full of genuine sympathy. Thank you. It has been hard being alone. Part of why I wanted my own place was to build something permanent, to have roots again. He glanced at Olivia. To have a reason to stay in one place. After dinner, Olivia walked Harrison out to his horse while her parents cleaned up inside. The afternoon sun was warm, and a gentle breeze rustled through the cottonwood trees that lined the property. Your parents are good people, Harrison said. You are lucky to have them. I know. They have always been supportive even when things have been difficult for me. Harrison was quiet for a moment, then said, About last night, those people at the saloon. Have they always treated you that way? Olivia sighed, leaning against the fence post. Not always so overtly cruel. But yes, for most of my life I have been the object of jokes and pity. When I was younger, I thought maybe it would change as I got older, but if anything, it has gotten worse. All of my friends from childhood are married now, starting families. I am the only one left, and people see that as proof that something is wrong with me. There is nothing wrong with you, Harrison said firmly. Those people are small-minded fools. You barely know me, Mr. Lancaster. How can you say that? Because I know cruelty when I see it, and I know it is never justified. And I know that what I saw last night was a kind, dignified woman being tormented by people who should be ashamed of themselves. He moved closer, his gray eyes intense. And I know that when I look at you, I see someone worth knowing, worth respecting. Olivia felt tears prickling at her eyes again, but this time they were not from pain. Why are you being so kind to me? What do you want? Maybe I am just a lonely rancher who would like a friend in his new town. Maybe I am tired of being alone and I see someone else who understands what that feels like. He smiled, and it transformed his serious face. Or maybe I just think you are interesting and I would like to get to know you better. People will talk. They probably already are after seeing us together at church. Let them talk. I do not care what they think. That is easy to say now, but when it affects your business, when people start questioning your judgment because you associate with me, Olivia. He said her first name deliberately, making it a statement. I am not afraid of gossip. I have worked too hard and too long to care about the opinions of people who do not matter. If someone wants to judge me for treating you with the respect you deserve, then I do not want their business anyway. She wanted to believe him. She wanted so desperately to trust that this was real, that he was genuine, but years of disappointment had taught her to be cautious. I should go back inside. Will I see you at the store tomorrow? If you need supplies, yes. Then I will see you tomorrow. He swung up onto his horse, settling easily into the saddle. Thank you for the dinner invitation. It was the best meal I have had in a long time. Olivia watched him ride away, her emotions in turmoil. Her mother found her still standing there a few minutes later, staring at the empty road. He seems like a good man, Catherine said quietly. Mama, do not start. He is just being polite. Olivia, I saw the way he looked at you. That was not just politeness. You are seeing what you want to see. But even as she said it, Olivia felt a flutter of hope in her chest that she tried desperately to suppress. Monday morning arrived with the usual routine. Olivia opened the general store at 7, sweeping the front step and arranging the displays as Mr. Henderson preferred. The store carried everything from farming equipment to fabrics, from canned goods to ammunition. It was the heart of Jackson's commerce, and Olivia knew the inventory better than anyone. Harrison arrived just before noon, carrying a long list written on a folded piece of paper. "Good morning, Miss Crawford. Good morning, Mr. Lancaster." She kept her voice professional, aware that Mrs. Henderson was in the back room and could hear everything. "How can I help you today?" "I need quite a bit. Fence wire, nails, lumber if you have it or can order it. Also food supplies, coffee, flour, beans, sugar. And I need to find out who I can hire to help with repairs and ranch work." Olivia moved into her element, efficiently gathering items and making notes on what would need to be ordered from the warehouse in Cheyenne. As she worked, Harrison watched her with undisguised admiration. "You really know this place inside and out," he observed. "I have worked here for 5 years. You learn where everything is." She climbed a ladder to reach a box of nails on a high shelf, conscious of his steadying hand on the ladder base. "You said you are looking for ranch hands. I might be able to help with that. There are a few men in town who do day labor and 1 or 2 who might be interested in steadier work. I can give you names." "I would appreciate that. Honestly, I would appreciate any advice you could give me. I know ranching, but I do not know this area, do not know the people. Most folks around here are decent, hardworking people, but they can be set in their ways, slow to accept outsiders." "Like how they have treated you?" The question was gentle but direct. Olivia paused in her work, turning to look at him. "Mr. Lancaster, you need to understand something. If you continue to associate with me publicly, people are going to talk. They are going to make assumptions and spread rumors. It could hurt your chances of establishing yourself here. And you need to understand something, Miss Crawford." He moved closer, lowering his voice so Mrs. Henderson would not hear. "I am not a man who abandons people who have shown me kindness. You and your family welcomed me, a complete stranger, into your home. You are helping me now with information I need. Why would I care what small-minded people think about that?" Before Olivia could respond, the door opened and Marcus Flint walked in, the same man who had thrown the glass at the saloon. He stopped short when he saw Harrison and Olivia standing close together. "Well, well, the new rancher and our resident spinster. How touching." His voice dripped with mockery. Harrison turned slowly, and Olivia saw his entire demeanor change. His posture straightened, his expression hardened, and suddenly he seemed even larger than his already considerable size. "You want to repeat that?" Marcus, who had been smiling smugly, suddenly looked uncertain. "I was just making conversation." "No, you were being disrespectful to Miss Crawford. I suggest you apologize. I do not take orders from drifters who just rode into town." Harrison took a step forward. "I am not a drifter. I am a landowner and a customer of this store, and I am someone who does not tolerate men who disrespect women. Now apologize, or get out." The store had gone very quiet. Mrs. Henderson had emerged from the back room, her eyes wide. Marcus looked from Harrison to Olivia and back again, clearly trying to decide if his pride was worth a physical confrontation with a man who outweighed him by at least 40 pounds of muscle. "Sorry," he finally muttered, so quietly it was barely audible. Louder, and to her, not to me. Marcus's face flushed red. "I am sorry, Olivia." "Apology accepted," Olivia said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Do you need something from the store, Marcus?" "No, I was just passing by." He practically fled out the door. The moment he was gone, Mrs. Henderson let out a low whistle. Well, that was something. Marcus Flint has needed someone to stand up to him for years. His father's money has made him think he can do whatever he wants. Harrison turned back to Olivia. "Are you all right?" "I am fine." She was more than fine. She was stunned and touched and confused all at once. No one had ever defended her like that before. "Thank you. You did not have to do that." "Yes, I did." He said it simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Mrs. Henderson disappeared back into the storeroom, tactfully giving them space. Olivia resumed gathering Harrison's supplies, her hands shaking slightly. "I meant what I said yesterday," Harrison said quietly. "I do not care what people think. I care about doing what is right. But you barely know me. Why does it matter so much to you?" He was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. "Maybe because I see myself in you. I know what it is like to be judged unfairly, to be dismissed because of something outside your control. When I was younger, poorer, I was just the hired hand, barely worth acknowledgement from the ranch owners. People looked through me like I was not even there. It made me angry, but it also made me determined to be different, to treat people with respect regardless of their circumstances. That is a rare quality. Should not be. Should be the standard." He smiled again, that transformation of his face that made him handsome instead of just rugged. "Now, tell me about these potential ranch hands." They spent the next hour going over details, Olivia writing down names and descriptions while Harrison listened carefully. By the time he left, his horse was loaded with supplies and he had a clear plan for the next few days of work. "Miss Crawford," he said as he prepared to leave, "would you do me the honor of having dinner with me sometime this week? Somewhere public, properly chaperoned if that would make you more comfortable. I would like to get to know you better." Olivia felt her heart hammering against her ribs. This was what she had feared and hoped for in equal measure. "Mr. Lancaster, are you asking to court me?" "If you would be amenable to that, yes, I am." "But you do not know me. Not really. I could be terrible. I could be boring or annoying or you could be wonderful, and I will never know unless you give us a chance." He reached out, not quite touching her but close enough that she could feel the warmth of his hand near hers. "I am not asking you to marry me tomorrow, Olivia. I am just asking for a chance to see if maybe we could be friends. And if friendship grows into something more, well, I would not object to that. People will talk," she said again, but her resolve was weakening. "Let them. You might regret this when you know me better. Somehow I doubt that." Olivia took a deep breath, feeling like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump into unknown waters. But Harrison's steady gaze gave her courage. "All right. Yes, I would like to have dinner with you." His smile could have lit up the entire store. "Wednesday evening. There is a restaurant on Main Street, the Valley House. Would 6 o'clock work?" "Yes, that would be fine." "Then I will see you Wednesday at 6. He tipped his hat, loaded the last of his supplies onto his horse and rode off, leaving Olivia standing in the doorway of the store, her mind reeling. Mrs. Henderson appeared at her elbow. "That man is smitten with you. You are imagining things." "I am 60 years old, girl. I know smitten when I see it, and you could do a lot worse than Harrison Lancaster. He is polite, hardworking, and he clearly does not care about gossip. Plus, he stood up to Marcus Flint, which takes backbone. Mrs. Henderson, please do not make more of this than it is. He is just being kind. Keep telling yourself that, dear. But I saw how he looked at you. That was not just kindness." The next 2 days crawled by with agonizing slowness. Olivia found herself constantly distracted, wondering if she had made the right decision, questioning Harrison's motives, and trying not to get her hopes up. She told her parents about the dinner invitation, and while her father looked concerned, her mother was thrilled. Finally. Catherine exclaimed, "A man who has the sense to see what a treasure you are. Mama, it is just dinner. Please do not make it into more than it is." But even as she said the words, Olivia could not help the flutter of excitement in her stomach. She spent Tuesday evening altering another dress, letting it out in the bust and waist, adding a bit of lace she had been saving for a special occasion. If this was not a special occasion, she did not know what was. Wednesday arrived with beautiful weather, clear skies and mild temperatures. The day at the store seemed endless, every minute dragging past with agonizing slowness. Finally, 5 o'clock came and Olivia closed up the store, rushing back to the boarding house to change. She stood in front of her small mirror, examining herself critically. The dress was a soft blue cotton that brought out her eyes. She had pinned her hair up in a style that was perhaps more elegant than practical, and she had even borrowed some rose water from Mrs. Patterson to dab on her wrists. But looking at her reflection, all she could see were her flaws. The fullness of her face, the roundness of her arms, the way the dress pulled tight across her middle no matter how much she let out the seams. What was Harrison thinking, asking to court someone like her? There had to be prettier women, thinner women, more appropriate women he could choose. A knock on the door startled her out of her spiraling thoughts. Mrs. Patterson's voice called through the door. "Olivia, dear, your gentleman caller is here." Taking a deep breath, Olivia picked up her shawl and made her way downstairs. Harrison stood in the boarding house parlor, hat in hand, looking handsome in a dark suit that had clearly been brushed and pressed for the occasion. When he saw her descending the stairs, his face lit up. "Miss Crawford, you look beautiful." Olivia felt herself blushing. "Thank you. You look very nice as well. Shall we?" He offered his arm, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. They walked out together, very aware of Mrs. Patterson watching from the window with undisguised delight. The Valley House was Jackson's nicest restaurant, with white tablecloths and real glass windows. When they entered, conversation noticeably dipped as people registered who had just walked in. Olivia felt her courage wavering, but Harrison's steady presence beside her kept her moving forward. They were seated at a corner table, and Harrison held her chair for her before taking his own seat. The waiter, young Tommy Morgan, barely concealed his surprise. "Evening, Miss Crawford, Mr. Lancaster. Can I get you folks something to drink? Coffee for me," Harrison said. "Miss Crawford." "The same, please." As Tommy hurried off, Olivia was acutely aware of the stares and whispers from other tables. She tried to focus on the menu, but the words blurred before her eyes. "Olivia." Harrison's quiet voice drew her attention. "Look at me, not at them." She met his gaze across the table. "The only person whose opinion matters at this table is yours. I am here because I want to be, because I want to spend time with you. Everything else is just noise. How are you so confident, so unbothered by what people think? Years of practice, I suppose. When you spend a decade being treated as less than because you are poor, you either let it destroy you or you learn not to care. I chose not to care." He leaned forward slightly. "Tell me about yourself. What do you do when you are not working at the store?" "Not much, honestly. I read when I can afford books or when someone will lend them to me. I help my mother with the garden sometimes. I sew, though I am not particularly skilled at it." "What do you like to read?" "Anything I can get my hands on. Stories, mostly. Adventures, romances, tales of faraway places." "Do you ever want to travel, see those faraway places?" Olivia was quiet for a moment, considering the question. "Sometimes. But mostly I think I just want to feel at home where I am, to not feel like an outsider in my own town." Harrison's expression softened. "That is all anyone really wants, is not it? To belong somewhere." Their food arrived, simple but well-prepared meals of steak and potatoes. As they ate, the conversation flowed more easily. Harrison told her about his experiences working on different ranches, the characters he had met, the challenges of ranch life. Olivia found herself relaxing, laughing at his stories, sharing some of her own. You said your sister died in childbirth, Olivia said, then immediately regretted bringing up something so painful. I am sorry, I should not have. No, it is all right. Harrison set down his fork. Her name was Helen. She was 4 years younger than me. She married a good man, a farmer in Colorado. They were so excited when they found out she was expecting. But something went wrong during the delivery. They both died. The baby was a boy. They buried them together. I am so sorry, Harrison. That is a terrible loss. It was the hardest thing I have ever been through. Helen was all the family I had left. After she died, I just felt untethered. Like I had no reason to stay in Colorado, no reason to build anything there. That is when I started seriously saving to buy my own place, somewhere new, somewhere I could start fresh. And Jackson is your fresh start. I hope so. I want to build something lasting, something I can be proud of. And maybe, if I am lucky, I will find people worth building it for. His eyes held hers across the table, the meaning clear. After dinner, Harrison walked her back to the boarding house. The evening air was cool and pleasant, and the streets were quiet. At the boarding house door, they paused. Thank you for dinner, Olivia said. I had a lovely time. So did I. May I see you again? Perhaps on Sunday after church? I would like that. Harrison reached out and took her hand, his calloused fingers gentle around hers. Olivia, I know you have been hurt. I know you are cautious about trusting me. But I want you to know that I am serious about this, about getting to know you. I do not play games and I do not do things halfway. If I am courting you, I am courting you with the intention of seeing where this could lead. That is very direct. I believe in being honest. Life is too short for anything else. He raised her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. Good night, Olivia. Good night, Harrison. She watched him walk away before going inside, where Mrs. Patterson was waiting with barely contained excitement. Well, the older woman demanded. How was it? It was nice, Olivia said, trying to sound casual despite the way her heart was racing. Nice. Child, that man is clearly falling for you, and all you can say is it was nice. Mrs. Patterson, please. It was one dinner. Let us not make assumptions. But as Olivia lay in bed that night, replaying every moment of the evening, she allowed herself to hope, just a little, that maybe this time things could be different. The next few weeks developed into a pattern. Harrison came to the store regularly for supplies, always making time to talk with Olivia. They had dinner again the following Wednesday, and then Harrison began showing up at the Crawford farm on Sunday afternoons, helping Daniel with various projects while Olivia and her mother prepared dinner. The town gossip was relentless. Some people were scandalized, others confused, and a few expressed outright hostility at the idea of Harrison courting Olivia. But Harrison remained unshakable, publicly treating Olivia with respect and affection that gradually began to change some minds. One Saturday in late June, Harrison invited Olivia to visit the ranch. Her mother insisted on coming along as a chaperone, so the three of them rode out in Harrison's wagon to see the property. The Riverside Ranch was indeed in need of work, but the bones of it were solid. The house was a good-sized log structure with a wide porch and a stone fireplace. The barn needed repairs, and several of the fences had to be rebuilt, but the land itself was beautiful, with rolling grassland, stands of cottonwood and aspen trees, and a clear creek running through the property. It is lovely, Olivia said, standing on the porch and looking out over the valley. I can see why you wanted this place. Can you? Harrison came to stand beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Can you see yourself here? Olivia's breath caught. The implication was clear, but she was almost afraid to believe it. Harrison, I know we have not been courting long. I know by conventional standards I should wait longer before saying anything. But I am not a conventional man, and I know my own mind. I am falling in love with you, Olivia. Every day I spend with you, I am more certain that you are the woman I want to build my life with. You barely know me, she whispered, even as her heart soared. I know enough. I know you are kind and intelligent and strong. I know you have been hurt, but you have not let it make you bitter. I know that when I talk to you, I feel understood in a way I have never felt before. I know that I think about you constantly, that my day feels incomplete if I do not get to see you. He turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. I am not asking you to make any decisions right now. I just want you to know what I am feeling, what my intentions are. From inside the house, where Catherine was inspecting the kitchen, came a deliberate clatter of dishes, reminding them they were not completely alone. Olivia felt tears threatening, but this time they were tears of joy. I am falling in love with you too, she admitted, but I am scared. I am scared this is not real, that you will wake up one day and realize you made a mistake. That is not going to happen. You do not know that. Yes, I do. His grip on her hands tightened. Olivia, do you know what I saw the first night I met you, when you came stumbling out of that saloon? A humiliated woman running away. I saw someone who had been knocked down but had not given up. I saw dignity and strength and grace under fire. And I thought to myself, that is the kind of woman who could survive anything. That is the kind of woman who could build a life with someone through good times and bad. I do not feel strong. Most days I just feel tired. That is what strength is, Olivia. Getting up every day and facing a world that has not been kind to you, and doing it anyway. That takes more courage than most people ever have to show. She let herself lean into him, just slightly, and felt his arms come around her. For the first time in her life, she felt protected, cherished, and valued. The embrace lasted only a moment before they heard Catherine's footsteps approaching, and they separated to a more respectable distance. But something had shifted. Something had been acknowledged that could not be taken back. Over the next month, Harrison continued working on the ranch while deepening his courtship of Olivia. He hired 2 ranch hands, brothers named Jack and Samuel Potter, good men recommended by Daniel Crawford. The ranch slowly transformed under their labor, fences rebuilt, the barn repaired, cattle purchased and moved onto the property. And through it all, Harrison made time for Olivia. Dinners on Wednesday evenings, Sunday afternoons at her parents' farm, quick visits to the store during the week. Small gifts, nothing expensive but always thoughtful. A book she had mentioned wanting to read, a hair ribbon in her favorite color, a packet of seeds for flowers her mother loved. The town gradually adjusted to seeing them together. Some people remained hostile, particularly Marcus Flint and his circle of friends. But others, seeing Harrison's obvious devotion and Olivia's happiness, began to reconsider their opinions. Mrs. Henderson became one of their strongest advocates, loudly defending them to anyone who dared to criticize in her hearing. It was late July when everything changed. Olivia was working at the store when Marcus Flint came in, clearly drunk despite it being only midday. She tensed immediately but kept her voice professional. "Good afternoon, Marcus. What can I help you with?" "I want to know what magic spell you put on Lancaster," he slurred, weaving slightly on his feet. "Good man like that, he should be courting someone proper, someone pretty. Not some fat cow who—" He did not get to finish the sentence. Harrison, who had entered the store unnoticed behind Marcus, grabbed the smaller man by the collar and physically hauled him toward the door. "I have warned you once about disrespecting Miss Crawford. I will not warn you again." "She is not worth it," Marcus shouted, struggling ineffectively against Harrison's iron grip. "She is not worth your time or your reputation," or Harrison shoved him out the door so hard that Marcus stumbled and fell onto the dusty street. Several passers-by stopped to watch the confrontation. "You want to say anything else about the woman I love?" Harrison's voice carried clearly in the sudden silence. "Because I am happy to continue this conversation." Marcus scrambled to his feet, his face red with humiliation and rage. "You are making a fool of yourself over her." "The whole town thinks so." "I do not care what the town thinks. I care about her. And if you or anyone else has a problem with that, you can take it up with me directly. But you will treat Olivia Crawford with the respect she deserves, or you will answer to me. Is that clear?" Several of the watching men, including Marcus's own friends, were nodding approvingly. Marcus looked around, realized he had no support, and stalked off down the street. The small crowd dispersed, several people offering nods of approval to Harrison before going about their business. Harrison came back into the store, breathing hard, his face flushed. "I apologize for the scene. I should have handled that more calmly." "You defended my honor," Olivia said, her voice shaking. "No one has ever done that before. They should have. A long time ago." He moved closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "I meant what I said out there. I love you, Olivia. I love you, and I am tired of people thinking they can insult you without consequence. You said it publicly, that you love me. Yes, and I would say it again, louder if necessary." He took her hands, apparently not caring that Mrs. Henderson had emerged from the back room and was watching with undisguised delight. "I know it has only been 2 months. I know by normal standards that is not long enough. But I am a man who knows his own mind, and I know I want to spend my life with you. Harrison, marry me, Olivia. Be my wife. Help me build a life at the ranch. Let me spend every day showing you how much you mean to me." Olivia felt tears streaming down her face. She was aware of Mrs. Henderson watching, of other customers who had entered the store stopping to stare. This was the most public proposal imaginable, and a part of her wanted to pull Harrison aside, to have this conversation in private. But a larger part of her, the part that had been hurt and mocked and dismissed for so long, wanted this. Wanted the public declaration, the undeniable proof that Harrison Lancaster chose her, wanted her, loved her. "Yes," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Yes, I will marry you." Harrison let out a whoop of joy and swept her up into his arms, spinning her around in a circle right there in the general store. When he set her down, he kissed her, a gentle but unmistakable kiss that made her heart race and made Mrs. Henderson actually applaud. "Well, it is about time," the older woman declared. "Congratulations to you both." The news spread through Jackson like wildfire. By evening, everyone knew that Harrison Lancaster had proposed to Olivia Crawford in the middle of the general store, and she had accepted. Reactions were mixed, but the majority seemed to be positive or at least accepting. It was hard to argue against a love that was so openly expressed, so clearly genuine. Catherine and Daniel Crawford were thrilled, though Catherine cried with happiness while insisting they needed at least a few weeks to plan a proper wedding. Harrison wanted to marry immediately, but he deferred to Olivia's wishes, and she agreed with her mother that a few weeks would be appropriate. They set the wedding for August 15th, 1876, just over a month away. It would be a simple ceremony at the church, followed by a reception at the Crawford farm. Catherine threw herself into preparations with the energy of a woman who had long ago given up hope of planning her only daughter's wedding. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind. Olivia continued working at the store, but every spare moment was devoted to preparing for her new life. Harrison expanded the ranch house, adding a proper bedroom and enlarging the kitchen. The Potter brothers teased him mercilessly about his eagerness to have everything perfect for his bride, but they worked just as hard to help him achieve it. There were still cruel comments, Still, people who whispered that Harrison must have some ulterior motive or that Olivia must have trapped him somehow. But these voices grew quieter as it became clear that nothing anyone said would shake Harrison's devotion. 1 week before the wedding, Olivia went to the ranch to see the completed renovations. Harrison had outdone himself. The house now had 3 bedrooms, a spacious kitchen with a new cast iron stove, and a dining room large enough to host family gatherings. He had even built a front porch swing, something Olivia had mentioned in passing that she had always wanted. "What do you think?" he asked nervously, watching her examine every detail. "It is perfect," she said honestly. "It is more than I ever dreamed of. I want you to be happy here. I want this to be your home, not just my house that you are moving into. If there is anything you want to change, Harrison." She took his hand, squeezing it gently. "It is already perfect because you made it for us, for our life together." He pulled her into an embrace, holding her close. "I cannot wait for you to be my wife. I cannot wait to wake up every morning with you beside me, to share every day with you." "1 more week," she said, smiling against his chest. "1 more week," he agreed, "and then you are mine forever." The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful, with a brilliant blue sky and mild temperatures. The church was packed with people, some genuinely happy for the couple, others simply curious about the unusual match. Olivia wore a simple white dress that Catherine had sewn, altered to fit Olivia's figure perfectly. Her hair was adorned with wildflowers that Harrison had picked himself that morning. When she walked down the aisle on her father's arm, Harrison's face transformed with joy. Dressed in his best suit, he looked handsome and confident, his eyes never leaving her face. Reverend Thomas performed the ceremony, speaking about love and commitment, about building a life together through challenges and joys. When it came time for the vows, Harrison's voice was strong and clear. "I, Harrison Lancaster, take you, Olivia Crawford, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you every day of my life. I promise to stand beside you in good times and in bad, to support your dreams and share your burdens. You are my partner, my love, and my home." Olivia's voice shook with emotion as she repeated her vows. "I, Olivia Crawford, take you, Harrison Lancaster, to be my lawfully wedded husband. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you every day of my life. I promise to be your partner in building our life together, to support you in your endeavors, and to share in all that life brings us. You have given me a gift I never thought I would receive, the gift of being loved exactly as I am." There was not a dry eye in the church by the time Reverend Thomas pronounced them husband and wife. When Harrison kissed his bride, the congregation erupted in applause, genuine warmth replacing much of the earlier skepticism. The reception at the Crawford farm was a joyous affair. Catherine and several of her friends had prepared a feast, and despite the lingering prejudices of some, most of the town turned out to celebrate with them. Harrison never left Olivia's side, his pride in his new wife evident to everyone. As the afternoon sun began to sink toward the horizon, Harrison led Olivia away from the crowd to a quiet spot near the garden. He took her hands in his expression serious. "There is something I need to tell you," he said. "Something I should have said before, but I was not sure how." Olivia felt a flutter of concern. "What is it?" "That first night when I heard what those people were saying to you in the saloon, I did not just happen to be passing by. I had seen you earlier that day in the store, and I was struck by you. By your smile, by the way you helped customers, by something I could not quite name. I wanted to meet you, but I could not think of a good excuse. So when I saw you go into the saloon, I followed, thinking maybe I could ask you to dance. You followed me. I know how that sounds. But I am glad I did, because I was outside when you came out, and I saw how upset you were. And in that moment, I knew I wanted to know you, wanted to protect you from people who could be so cruel." He cupped her face gently in his hands. "What I am trying to say is, from the very first moment I saw you, I was drawn to you. It was not pity, it was not just kindness. It was something deeper, something I did not have a name for yet." "Love at first sight?" Olivia asked, half teasing, half serious. "Maybe, or maybe just recognition. Like I was seeing someone I had been looking for without knowing it." He kissed her softly. "I love you, Olivia Lancaster." "I love you too," she whispered against his lips. "And Harrison, thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me. Really seeing me, not just what others said I was. Thank you for giving me a chance to be loved." "You do not have to thank me for that. Loving you is the easiest thing I have ever done." They returned to the party hand in hand, ready to begin their new life together. As the celebration continued into the evening, Olivia found herself surrounded by well-wishers, by people who had known her all her life, expressing genuine happiness for her. Even some who had been among her tormentors approached to offer awkward congratulations, shame-faced at their past behavior. As darkness fell, Harrison loaded their gifts into the wagon and helped Olivia up to the seat. The drive to the ranch was quiet, both of them tired but content. When they arrived, Harrison carried her over the threshold as tradition demanded, and they stood together in their new home, husband and wife. "Welcome home, Mrs. Lancaster," Harrison said. "Home," Olivia repeated, tasting the word, feeling its weight and promise. "Yes, I am home." That first night together as husband and wife was tender and sweet, both of them nervous but eager. Harrison was gentle and patient, making sure Olivia felt cherished and safe. When she expressed insecurity about her body, he kissed every curve, every inch of skin she thought was imperfect, until she believed him when he said she was beautiful. "You fit perfect in my arms," he murmured in the darkness, holding her close. "Like you were made to be right here." And wrapped in his embrace, safe and loved, Olivia finally let go of all the years of pain and self-doubt. She was exactly where she belonged. The next months passed in a haze of happiness as Olivia adjusted to her new life. She loved being a rancher's wife, discovering a talent for managing the household accounts and helping Harrison make decisions about the business. The Potter brothers became like family, often joining them for Sunday dinners along with Olivia's parents. The ranch prospered under Harrison's careful management. By winter, they had expanded their herd and were making plans for the coming year. The house was warm and comfortable, filled with small touches that made it a home: curtains Olivia sewed, books on the shelves, a rocking chair by the fireplace. In December, Olivia discovered she was pregnant. The news filled both of them with joy and some trepidation. Olivia was terrified, remembering what had happened to Harrison's sister, but Harrison refused to let fear overshadow their happiness. "You are strong," he told her, his hand resting gently on her still flat belly. "You are going to be fine, and our baby is going to be fine. I believe that with everything in me." The pregnancy progressed without complication, though Olivia's body changed in ways that sometimes made her self-conscious. But Harrison seemed only more enamored, constantly touching her growing belly, talking to the baby, making plans for their expanding family. On a warm day in early September 1877, after a labor that was long but ultimately successful, Olivia gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Daniel Thomas Lancaster, after Olivia's father and Harrison's late father. Harrison held his son with tears streaming down his face, overwhelmed with emotion. "He is perfect," he kept saying. "Absolutely perfect. He has your eyes," Olivia observed, exhausted but happy. "And your nose," Harrison replied. He looked up at her, his gray eyes shining with love. Thank you. Thank you for him, for our family, for everything. The first year of Daniel's life was challenging, as any first year with a baby is. But they navigated it together, supporting each other through sleepless nights and the endless demands of an infant. The ranch continued to grow, and so did their reputation in the community. Harrison was becoming known as a fair employer and a shrewd businessman, while Olivia's kindness and competence earned her respect in her own right. By 1880, they had 3 children. After Daniel came a daughter, Emily Catherine, born in 1878, and another son, William James, born in 1880. The house rang with the sounds of children's laughter, and the ranch required the hiring of additional help to manage both the livestock and the household. Olivia sometimes looked back on her life before Harrison and could barely recognize that lonely, hurting woman. She had become confident in herself, in her worth, in her place in the world. The cruel comments and mockery of the past seemed like distant memories, powerless to hurt her now. One evening in late summer of 1881, after the children were asleep, Olivia and Harrison sat together on the porch swing he had built 5 years earlier. The sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "You remember our first conversation?" Harrison asked, his arm around her shoulders. "On the street outside the saloon, how could I forget? You were so kind to me when you had no reason to be." "I had every reason. You needed help and I was in a position to give it. That is reason enough." He kissed the top of her head. "But I am glad I did. Otherwise, I might have missed out on the best thing that ever happened to me." "The best thing? This, our family, our life together. I was so lonely before I met you, Olivia. I did not realize how lonely until I found you. You gave me a home, not just a house. You gave me a reason to build something lasting." "You gave me that too," Olivia said softly. "Before you, I thought I would spend my whole life alone. I had accepted it, or at least I thought I had. But you showed me what it felt like to be loved, to be valued for who I am." "You are the strongest woman I know," Harrison said seriously. "You survived years of cruelty and came out the other side with your kindness intact. That is remarkable." "I survived because I had to, and because I had parents who loved me, even when the rest of the world did not seem to. And now you have me and our children, and we will always love you." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. Inside the house, they could hear one of the children stirring, and Olivia started to rise, but Harrison gently pulled her back. "I will get them. You rest." She watched him go inside, this man who had seen her when others looked through her, who had defended her when she could not defend herself, who had loved her when she thought she was unlovable. The years continued to pass in a rhythm of seasons and celebrations. The children grew, each one developing their own personality. Daniel was serious and thoughtful like his father, Emily was spirited and creative, and William was the family charmer, able to talk his way into or out of anything. In 1883, Olivia gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl they named Samuel and Sarah. The house, expanded twice more by then, was full of noise and chaos and love. The ranch had become one of the most successful in the valley, employing 12 men and supplying cattle to markets as far away as Cheyenne. As the children grew older, Olivia found time to become involved in the community in new ways. She helped establish a lending library in Jackson, donating many of her own books to get it started. She organized charity drives for families struggling through harsh winters. She became known as someone who would help anyone in need, remembering her own days of being judged and excluded. Harrison supported every one of her endeavors, proud of the woman his wife had become. He often told their children the story of how he and their mother met, emphasizing the importance of treating everyone with kindness and respect. "Your mother is the bravest person I know," he would tell them. She faced years of being treated badly, and instead of becoming bitter or cruel herself, she became even kinder. That is real strength. In 1890, Daniel, now 13, asked his father a question that had been bothering him. "Papa, some of the kids at school say mean things about Mama. About how she looks. It makes me angry." Harrison put down the rope he was mending and gave his son his full attention. "What do you do when they say these things?" "I want to fight them. But Mama says fighting is not the answer." "Your mother is right, though I understand the impulse. I have wanted to fight people over the things they have said about her many times." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Daniel, there will always be small-minded people who judge others based on superficial things. Your mother knows this better than anyone. But she also knows that those people's opinions do not define her worth. But it is not fair. Mama is wonderful, she is kind and smart, and she helps everyone. You are absolutely right, it is not fair, but life rarely is. The best we can do is make sure that we do not contribute to the unfairness, that we treat everyone, regardless of how they look or where they come from or how much money they have, with respect and dignity." He put his hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Your mother is wonderful. And the people who matter, the people worth caring about, know that. The rest, they do not matter. Is that why you married her? Because you saw she was wonderful?" "I married her because I fell in love with her, because she made me laugh and made me think and made me want to be a better man. Because when I was with her, I felt less alone. And yes, because I thought she was wonderful, and I still do." Daniel nodded slowly, processing this. "I want to find someone like that someday. Then my advice is this: look past the surface. Do not judge people by what they look like or what others say about them. Judge them by how they treat people, by the content of their character. That is where you will find real worth." It was advice Daniel would remember and pass on to his own children years later. By 1895, the Lancaster family was firmly established as one of the pillars of the Jackson community. Their eldest son Daniel had gone off to study agriculture at a university in the East, with plans to return and help modernize the ranch operations. Emily, at 17, was being courted by a young lawyer who had recently opened a practice in town. The younger children were thriving in school and in their various interests. Harrison, now in his late 40s, had a few strands of gray in his hair but was still strong and vital. He and Olivia had weathered the ups and downs of ranch life together. Bad winters and droughts, good years and lean ones, always emerging stronger for having faced them together. One afternoon in May, almost exactly 19 years after that fateful night they met, Harrison and Olivia rode out together to a favorite spot on their property, a small rise that overlooked the entire valley. They had packed a picnic lunch, a rare treat of time alone together. "Do you ever miss it?" Olivia asked as they sat on a blanket, watching the cattle graze in the distance. "Your life before Jackson, before me." "Not for a single second," Harrison replied without hesitation. "Why would I miss being alone and working someone else's land when I have everything I could ever want right here? I sometimes wonder what my life would have been like if you had not come to Jackson, if I had never met you. You would have been fine. You are a survivor, Olivia. You would have found your way. Maybe, but I would not have been happy, not like this." She leaned against him, comfortable in the familiar warmth of his presence. "You saved me, you know, that night outside the saloon and every day since." "No," Harrison said firmly, "I did not save you. You saved yourself by being strong enough to survive until we found each other. I just had the good sense to recognize something precious when I saw it. We have been fortunate, have we not?" Our children are healthy, the ranch is successful, we have good friends and family. Sometimes I worry it cannot last, that something will happen to take it all away. Nothing is guaranteed in this life except death and taxes, Harrison said with a slight smile. But I will tell you this, whatever comes, we will face it together. That is what we have always done, and that is what we will always do. Always, Olivia agreed, kissing him softly. As they packed up their picnic and rode back to the ranch house, Olivia reflected on how different her life was from what she had once imagined. She had expected to live and die as an outsider, tolerated but never truly accepted, certainly never loved. Instead, she had found a partner who saw her for who she truly was, who valued her and cherished her exactly as she was. The children greeted them when they returned, full of stories about their day and questions about dinner and requests for help with various projects. The house was chaotic and noisy and absolutely perfect. That evening, after the children were in bed, Harrison found Olivia in the kitchen finishing the last of the dishes. He came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. "You know what I realized today," he murmured. "What?" "That I am the luckiest man alive. I get to spend every day with the woman I love, raising our children, building our life. Not everyone gets that." "I am pretty lucky too," Olivia said, turning in his arms to face him. "Though if someone had told me 19 years ago that I would end up here, married to a handsome rancher with 5 children and a successful ranch, I would have thought they were insane. Why? Did you not think you deserved happiness? I did not think it was possible for me. I thought I was destined to be alone." "Well, you thought wrong." He kissed her, a deep, lingering kiss that still made her heart race after all these years. "You are stuck with me forever, Olivia Lancaster." "I can think of worse fates," she replied with a smile. The years continued their steady march forward. Daniel returned from university and took over much of the day-to-day management of the ranch, implementing new techniques that increased their productivity. Emily married her lawyer and gave them their first grandchild in 1898. William, always the adventurous one, spent 2 years working on ranches throughout the West before returning home, declaring that no place compared to Jackson. The twins, Samuel and Sarah, were inseparable and brilliant, both showing an aptitude for learning that their parents encouraged by sending them to the best schools they could afford. By the turn of the century, Harrison and Olivia were in their early 50s, with 4 grandchildren and a 5th on the way. The ranch had grown to encompass additional land purchases, and they employed over 20 people full-time. They had weathered the panic of 1893, the harsh winter of 1899, and countless other challenges, always emerging together on the other side. On their 20th wedding anniversary in August 1896, Harrison had surprised Olivia with a trip to San Francisco, something she had always dreamed of but never thought she would experience. They spent 2 weeks in the city, seeing the sights, attending the theater, and enjoying the rare luxury of time alone together. On their last night before returning to Wyoming, they stood on the beach watching the sunset over the Pacific Ocean. Olivia was mesmerized by the vast expanse of water, so different from the mountains and prairies of home. "Thank you for this," she said, "for making my dreams come true." "You made my dreams come true first," Harrison replied. "You gave me a home and a family. This is the least I could do." "Do you ever regret it? Marrying me, I mean. Dealing with all the gossip and judgment in those early years." "Olivia, how many times do I have to tell you? I have never regretted a single moment. Those people who gossiped, who judged, they do not matter. They never did. What matters is this." He gestured between them. "Us, our family, the life we built together. I know, I am sorry, sometimes old insecurities resurface. Then let me make this very clear. He took both her hands in his, looking directly into her eyes. You are the love of my life. You are my partner, my best friend, my everything. I thank God every single day that I was in Jackson that night, that I had the courage to approach you, that you gave me a chance. My life began the day I met you, Olivia. Everything before that was just waiting. Tears streamed down Olivia's face, but they were happy tears. Even after 20 years, he could still make her feel cherished and valued. I love you so much. I love you too. Always have, always will. They returned to Jackson refreshed and reconnected, ready to face whatever the future held. The ranch continued to thrive, and their family continued to grow. More grandchildren arrived over the years, each one bringing new joy and new challenges. In 1905, they celebrated their 30th anniversary with a large party at the ranch. It seemed like half the town attended, a testament to how far they had come from those early days when their courtship was the subject of scandal and gossip. Now they were pillars of the community, respected and admired. During the party, a young woman approached Olivia with tears in her eyes. Mrs. Lancaster, I wanted to thank you. Thank me for what, dear? For showing me that it is possible to be happy even when people are cruel. I am like you, larger than other girls, and I have been so unhappy, feeling like no one will ever love me. But seeing you and Mr. Lancaster, seeing how much he loves you, seeing your beautiful family, it gives me hope. Olivia felt her own eyes filling with tears. She took the young woman's hands in hers. What is your name, Grace? Grace Miller. Grace, listen to me. You are worthy of love exactly as you are. Not after you change, not if you change. Right now, as you are worthy. It took me a long time to learn that, and I hope you can learn it sooner than I did. Do not let cruel people make you believe you are less than you are. Did it get easier? The comments, the looks, some days. And some days it still stings a little, I will not lie to you about that. But the difference is, I know who I am now. I know my worth. And the opinions of small-minded people cannot touch that. She squeezed the girl's hands gently. You will find your person, Grace. Someone who sees you for who you really are, who values what is important. Be patient, be kind to yourself, and do not settle for anyone who treats you as less than the treasure you are. Grace left the conversation visibly uplifted, and Olivia felt a deep sense of satisfaction. If her story, her happiness, could give hope to others who struggled as she once had, then perhaps all the pain had been worth it. Harrison found her a few minutes later, standing alone and looking thoughtful. Everything all right? Yes, I was just thinking about how far we have come, how different my life is from what I once thought it would be. Better different or worse different, so much better. Better than I ever imagined possible. She slipped her hand into his, a gesture as comfortable and natural as breathing after 30 years together. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for saying yes. He brought her hand to his lips, kissing it gently. Though I should point out, you did not really have a choice. I would have been very persistent if you had turned me down. Is that so? Absolutely. I knew from that first night that you were special. I would have courted you for years if that is what it took to convince you to marry me. Lucky for you. I am apparently easier to convince than you thought. Luckiest man alive, Harrison agreed, pulling her close for a dance as the band struck up a waltz. They danced together under the stars, surrounded by their children and grandchildren, their friends and neighbors, all the people who made up the life they had built together. And Olivia thought that maybe this was what happiness really was, not the absence of pain or struggle, but the presence of love strong enough to make it all worthwhile. The years advanced, bringing inevitable changes. In 1910, Harrison suffered a heart episode that scared them all. For several days, they were not sure he would survive. But he pulled through, though the doctor warned him to take things easier, to let others handle more of the physical labor of ranch work. Harrison grumbled about the restrictions but complied, not wanting to cause Olivia worry. He transitioned more into the business management side of the ranch, leaving the physical work to their sons and the hired hands. It was an adjustment, but he found he enjoyed having more time to spend with Olivia, to play with his grandchildren, to simply enjoy the life they had built. In 1915, they celebrated their 40th anniversary, though the party was smaller and quieter than previous celebrations. They were both in their 60s now, moving a bit slower, tiring a bit easier. But their love had only deepened with time, mellowed and enriched by decades of shared experiences. 40 years, Olivia marveled as they sat together on the porch swing that had become their favorite spot. Sometimes it feels like 40 minutes, and sometimes it feels like we have always been together. I cannot imagine my life without you in it, Harrison said. I do not even want to try. We have been blessed, have we not? To have so many years together, to see our children grow up and have children of their own. More blessed than I deserve, Harrison agreed. He was quiet for a moment, then said, Olivia, I need you to promise me something. What? If something happens to me, if I die before you, I need you to promise me you will not retreat from life, that you will continue to be involved with the family, with the community, that you will not let grief isolate you. Harrison, do not talk like that. We are getting older, love. We have to be realistic, and I know you. I know you would be tempted to pull away to hide from the pain, but I need you to promise me you will not do that. Our children and grandchildren need you. The town needs you. Olivia was crying now, unable to hold back the tears. I cannot imagine life without you. You are the strongest woman I know. If it comes to that, you will survive. You will grieve, but you will survive. Just like you survived everything else life has thrown at you. He wiped her tears gently with his thumb. But let us not borrow trouble. I plan to stick around and annoy you for many more years. Despite the scare from his heart episode, Harrison did stick around. They celebrated their 45th anniversary in 1920, surrounded by a family that now included 12 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. The ranch was still thriving under Daniel's management, and their children were all settled in successful lives of their own. In 1922, on a warm summer evening, Harrison and Olivia sat together on their porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. They had been married for 46 years, together for 47. Harrison was 74, Olivia 68, and they both felt the weight of those years in their bones. You remember what I said to you once? Harrison asked, his arm around her shoulders. About how you fit perfect in my arms. I remember, Olivia said softly. It was one of the kindest things anyone had ever said to me. It is still true. After all these years, all these experiences, you still fit perfectly right here. He pulled her closer. You always will. I love you, Harrison Lancaster. Thank you for seeing me when I thought I was invisible. Thank you for loving me when I thought I was unlovable. Thank you for every single day of the last 47 years. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for taking a chance on a lonely rancher who was crazy enough to propose after 2 months. Thank you for building this life with me, for giving me children and grandchildren, for making me happier than I ever thought possible. They sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to emerge. 2 people who had found each other against the odds and built something beautiful together. Inside the house, they could hear the sounds of family visiting for dinner, the laughter of grandchildren playing, the clatter of dishes being prepared. You know what the best part is? Olivia asked. What? That after all these years, I still get excited when I hear your horse coming up the road. I still look forward to our conversations at the end of the day. I still feel lucky every single morning when I wake up next to you. That is the secret, is it not? Finding someone who still makes your heart skip a beat even after decades together. Finding someone who feels like home. You are my home, Olivia said simply. You always have been. Harrison Lancaster died peacefully in his sleep in the spring of 1925 at the age of 77. He simply went to bed one night and did not wake up the next morning. Olivia found him lying peacefully, his face calm and untroubled, looking almost as if he were merely sleeping. The grief was overwhelming, a physical pain that made it hard to breathe. But true to her promise, Olivia did not retreat from life. She leaned on her children and grandchildren, accepted the support of the community that had once mocked her, and found ways to honor Harrison's memory by continuing the work they had done together. She established a scholarship fund in Harrison's name for young people who wanted to study agriculture, helping others achieve their dreams the way Harrison had achieved his. She continued her charitable work, her involvement with the library, her support of anyone who needed help. On quiet evenings, she would sit on the porch swing alone, remembering all the times they had sat there together. She would talk to him, telling him about the grandchildren and great-grandchildren, about the ranch, about all the little details of daily life she knew he would want to know. "You were right," she told the empty air one evening. "I am surviving. I am even finding moments of joy again, though I miss you every single day, but I am not retreating from life. I am living it fully the way you would want me to." Olivia Crawford Lancaster lived for 12 more years after Harrison's death, dying peacefully in 1937 at the age of 83. She was surrounded by her children, many of her grandchildren, and several great-grandchildren. Her last words were reported to be, "I am coming, Harrison. Save a spot for me on that porch swing." She was buried next to Harrison in the Jackson Cemetery, under a shared headstone that read, "Harrison and Olivia Lancaster. Beloved husband and wife, parents and grandparents. Their love story changed a town and inspired generations. Together forever." At her funeral, the church was packed with people whose lives had been touched by her kindness, her strength, her example. Grace Miller, now Grace Thompson and a grandmother herself, stood and shared the story of how Olivia had given her hope when she desperately needed it. How seeing the Lancaster family had shown her that love was possible even when the world was cruel. "She taught me that my worth was not determined by other people's opinions," Grace said through tears. "She taught me to be strong, to be kind, and to never give up on the possibility of love. The world is a better place because Olivia Lancaster was in it." Daniel Lancaster, now in his 60s and a pillar of the community himself, spoke last. "My parents' love story was not conventional. They faced judgment and cruelty from people who should have known better. But they never let that shake what they knew to be true, that they were meant for each other. They built a life based on respect, partnership, and genuine affection. They showed all of us what real love looks like, not the fairy tale version, but the real thing. The kind that survives hardship, that grows stronger with time, that leaves a legacy lasting far beyond two individual lives." He paused, looking at the casket covered in wildflowers, the kind Harrison had always picked for Olivia. "My father used to tell me that the day he met my mother was the day his life truly began. He said she made him believe in possibility, in the future, in himself. And my mother would say that my father saw her when she thought she was invisible, loved her when she thought she was unlovable. They gave each other the gift of being truly seen and truly valued. That is a rare and precious thing." The legacy of Harrison and Olivia Lancaster lived on through their descendants. The ranch remained in the family, passed down through generations, each one adding to the story while honoring the foundation Harrison and Olivia had built. The scholarship fund grew, helping hundreds of young people pursue their dreams in agriculture and ranching. But perhaps their greatest legacy was the story itself. The tale of the lonely rancher who saw past the cruelty of others to recognize something precious, and the woman who found the courage to believe she was worthy of love. It became a story told and retold in Jackson, a reminder that true worth is not determined by appearance or by the opinions of small-minded people, but by the content of one's character and the capacity of one's heart. In later years, a young historian researching the settlement of the Wyoming Territory came across their story. Intrigued, she dug deeper, finding letters between Harrison and Olivia, diary entries, newspaper clippings about their various charitable works, and interviews with their descendants. She published a book about their lives, and the story spread far beyond the valley they had called home. Readers around the country were moved by the tale of Harrison and Olivia, by the simple but profound truth at its heart that everyone deserves to be loved for who they are, not despite their perceived flaws but including them. That true love sees the whole person and values them completely. And in Jackson, Wyoming, now a thriving town that had long since grown beyond its frontier roots, there stood a bronze statue in the town square. It depicted a man and a woman sitting on a porch swing, his arm around her shoulders, both of them gazing out at some distant horizon. The plaque at the base read, "Harrison and Olivia Lancaster, pioneers, philanthropists, and proof that love sees what others overlook. May their example inspire us to be kinder, more accepting, and more willing to see the worth in everyone we meet." On summer evenings, young couples would sit on the benches near the statue, elderly residents would pause to pay their respects, and children would climb on the base while their parents told them the story of the rancher and his bride. The tale had become legend, polished smooth by retelling, but at its core remained the simple truth. Harrison Lancaster had been a lonely man looking for a place to belong and someone to belong with. Olivia Crawford had been a woman convinced her appearance made her unworthy of love. They found each other at exactly the right moment, and through their partnership, they built not just a successful ranch but a family, a legacy, and a love story for the ages. And somewhere, perhaps, in whatever lies beyond this life, Harrison and Olivia sat together on a porch swing, watching over the family and town they loved, content in the knowledge that their story had mattered, that their love had changed lives, and that they had found in each other exactly what they had been searching for all along. The end.